tweet, Mr. Trump? You going to stand by it?
Well, of course I'm standing by it. It was vetted. They went to the Washington Post. Fox News went out in great detail and looked for it, and there's no such video. And they may make one up, knowing the Clintons and knowing Hillary, but there's nobody. She just made it up. I mean, she made it up. It was a soundbite, just like Bernie Sanders lied. I mean, he went out and said things that never took place. I didn't say that about Mexicans. I have great relationships with the Hispanics, and I didn't say what he said. You know, they make up things in the world of politics. They're all talk and no action. They're politicians.
What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do for my kids? And somebody like the Trump comes along and says, I know the answers. The answer is that all of the Mexicans, they're criminals and rapists. We got to hate the Mexicans. Those are your enemies. We hate all the Muslims because all of the Muslims are terrorists. We got to hate the Muslims.
Well, the word is temporarily, and I have many, many friends who are Muslim, and they're great people, and they actually, some of them, not all of them, I will tell you, some of them aren't so thrilled with what I said, but many of them called me and they said, you know, Donald, you're right. We have a problem. I mean, look, there is a problem. You can't solve a problem until you find out what's the root cause. Now, if you remember, when I did that a week ago, it was like bedlam. All of a sudden, and you watch last night and you see people talking, they're saying, well, Trump has a point. We have to get down to the problem. I'm the one that was against going into Iraq. I said, you're going to totally destabilize the Middle East. If you look in 2004, 2003, a long time ago, I said, don't do Iraq. You're going to destabilize the Middle East, and Iran is going to take over the Middle East, and somebody else maybe. Well, the somebody else is ISIS. They've taken the oil, a lot of it, and Iran is taking over Iraq. And what have we done? We've spent $3 trillion, thousands of lives, wounded warriors all over the place. And what do we have? We have nothing. So stupid.
You sure you want to go down that road? The fact checkers have called you out on more false statements than any other candidate.
In advance?
Oh, I'll go down that road, and, you know, people maybe call me out, but they turn out to be wrong also, and many of the things I've said, and I think just about all of them, they may have been controversial at one point, George, but they're not controversial in the end because people start to say, you know, Trump's actually right.
You tweeted out that whites killed by blacks, these were statistics you picked up from somewhere, at a rate of 81%. And that's totally wrong. Whites killed by blacks is 15%. Yet you tweeted it was 81%. Now,
Bill, I didn't tweet. I retweeted somebody that was supposedly an expert.
But you don't
and it was also a radio show.
Why do you want to be in that
zone?
Hey,
Bill, am I going to check every statistic? I get millions and millions of people.
You got it. You're a presidential contender. You got to check it.
Millions of people. You know what? Fine.
Yeah, I'm looking out for you. I look out for every honest politician. I don't care what party they're in. Don't do this. Don't put your name on stuff like this, because it makes the other side, it gives them stuff to tell the ill-informed voter that you're a racist. I mean, you just had him in the platter.
This was a retweet, Bill. I'm sure you're looking out for me. Everybody is, right? Retweet. This was a retweet.
All right, whatever it is.
And it came
I told
from
you
sources
shouldn't
that
tweet
are
ever.
Very credible.
You shouldn't be tweeting. Don't tweet. Give it up for Lent. Lent is coming soon.
Okay,
give it up.
And you go into illegal immigration, everybody now is coming my way with illegal. I've been 100% right as far as crime is concerned, as far as the economy is concerned. I've been right on more than anybody else has been right by a
you've
big
never
factor.
come up with a video of those thousands of people cheering in New Jersey on 9/11.
Oh, there were plenty of people cheering, believe me, and I've come up with plenty. And the Washington Post wrote a story that they tried to retract, and there were many other stories written, and a lot of people, thousands of people, have been calling and writing and emailing. Many people saw it, and it was in New Jersey, and it was also all over the world, George. So there's an obvious problem, because all over the world, and you're not even disputing that, but people were celebrating all over the world, and I think it's disgusting.
We did have some celebrating. That is true. We had pockets of celebration. Some in Queens, some in Brooklyn.
How many people?
10, 12, 30, 40.
And those weren't just rumors. Those weren't just reports.
No.
You went out and checked them out.
We had one situation in which a candy store owned by a Muslim family was celebrating that day. right near a housing development, and the kids in the housing development came in and beat them up. And I think both facts were corroborated to be true. They were celebrating that the towers had come down, and some of the kids in the housing development got really upset about it, and they came in and did a pretty good job of beating them up.
They got on the roof of the building to look across. They knew what was going to happen. They were waiting for it to happen, and when it happened, they celebrated. They jumped for joy to see this happen. It was a great triumph. It's inconceivable to me and to you, but David, this is what we have to understand as a country. We're not dealing with the kind of thing we dealt with in any war we've ever fought before, because we've never dealt with these kinds of hateful, to the core, evil people.
Bernie Kerik, who was the New York City police commissioner during the attacks and was born in New Jersey, confirmed there were reports of celebrations in several New Jersey towns.
There were celebrations in Brooklyn, around Atlantic Avenue, in Queens, Patterson, New Jersey, I think Jersey City as well. But, you know, there were tens of thousands of people around the world celebrating, and several of them were in New York and New Jersey.
This video from New York radio talk show host Curtis Sliwa.
People celebrating, cheering, when they had actually heard that the World Trade Center had struck.
On Twitter, Sliwa confirmed celebrations took place.
I do have distinct recollection of having reported to me by the police a number of incidents, several. I'll read to you from an article, September 14th, 2001, Fred Siegel, New York Post. This is back then.
Okay.
Here in New York, it was easy to get angry listening to Egyptians, Palestinians, and the Arabs of nearby Patterson, New Jersey, celebrate as they received word of the murderous attacks in New York and Washington. But Mayor Giuliani, who has been tireless and magnificent in this crisis, rightly warned New Yorkers that it would be wrong to take that anger out on the city's Arab and Muslim residents. Attacks on Arab Americans in Patterson or elsewhere are utterly indefensible. There certainly were celebrations.
A lot of people, and they were just chanting and raving, and I noticed that they were holding things. They were holding like rocks and sticks, and they were saying "Burn America."
People were celebrating all over the world, and I think it's disgusting.
There were people celebrating in the West Bank. There were not people celebrating in New Jersey as far as any evidence we have seen. But I do want to move on.
Of course there were, George. There were articles. George, there were articles written about it. There were people celebrating. In fact, if you look at the famous Washington Post article that he tried to retract, there were articles written about it. Don't tell me that. There's no reason to apologize. There were people celebrating. When the World Trade Center was coming down, there were people celebrating, George.
Around the world. Let's move on to Vladimir Putin. You got that praise from Vladimir Putin this week, called it a great honor. You also said you've always felt fine about Putin.
Just be fair. Just be fair.
Always fair?
All I ask is fairness. Level playing field. All I ask.